First of all, we talked about the heart. So let's draw the heart in the middle here. And the heart has 4 chambers. Okay. It has a left atrium. It has a right atrium. It has a left ventricle, and it has a right ventricle. Okay. Now we said that blood is going to leave the heart from the left ventricle here. Let's draw this circuit. All right, it's going to leave the heart through the left ventricle, and it's going to go to the body. And when I say the body, it's going to go to all your other organs. Well, let's put body organs / tissues. Now it's going to leave those tissues. Remember, we talked about the capillary beds, leaving those tissues as veins, making their way back to the heart. So it's going to go back to the heart, and it's going to enter the heart again for the second time into the right atrium. Okay. Now from the right atrium, it's going to be pumped into the right ventricle. Okay. And from the right ventricle, it's going to leave the heart one more time. So it's going to leave the heart again here, and it's going to make its way up to the lungs. Let's draw our lungs here. All right. Now it's going to get fresh oxygen from the lungs, and it's going to leave the lungs and go back into the left atrium. Right, remember we said the atria are collecting blood, and then from the left atrium, it's going to go back into the left ventricle, and then that process will continue again and again. All right, let's talk about where oxygen is located. Now, when oxygen is present in blood, it's brighter red, right? So we call that oxygenated blood, red blood. Okay, and that's going to be present in blood when it leaves the lungs here. This red means it has oxygen, right? All through this chamber, it has oxygenated blood, right? When it leaves the left ventricle again, it still has oxygenated blood. Until it gets to the body tissues, this is where it's going to lose its oxygen. And we talked about that. That's the site of transfer in those capillary beds, where oxygen moves from the vessel into the tissues and waste products move back into the blood. So after it leaves the body organs and tissues, it is no longer oxygenated, okay? So it's going to go back to the heart as blue blood or deoxygenated blood here. Right. It's going to go back into the right atrium. Right. So in the right atrium, we have deoxygenated blood. In the right ventricle, we have deoxygenated blood. Now it's going to be pumped back out the heart, and it's going to go to the lungs where it's going to get more oxygen. All right. Now the circulation here, where blood goes from the heart to the lungs, this is called your pulmonary circulation. So when blood leaves the right ventricle, goes to the lungs, leaves the lungs, goes back to the left atrium, this is called your pulmonary circulation. Right? It's going to the lungs to get oxygen. At the bottom here, where it leaves the heart again and goes out to the peripheral tissues, this is called your systemic circulation. All right, so your pulmonary circulation is when it's being circulated back into the lungs to get more oxygen. Your systemic circulation is where it's leaving the heart for that second time, going out to the peripheral tissues to be oxygenated. Now we're going to talk about two phenomenon, which is parallel flow versus series flow. Now, when I say parallel, the word parallel means that things are happening at the same time, right? If you talk about things happen parallelly in a parallel way, they're happening at the same time. So it's sort of like an option. When we talk about series flow, things are happening one after the other, right? So you can have parallel flow where the blood has an option where to go. Or we can talk about series flow where it has to go one after the other after the other. When blood goes through the heart, this is called series flow. And all that means is that the blood must go from left atrium to left ventricle, back around to right atrium to right ventricle. It doesn't have a choice. It can't skip any of those steps. It has to happen one after the other in series, right? When we talk about blood going to the body tissues and the body organs, this is parallel flow. And what that means is the blood has to go to these organs, but it can go to different organs at a time. So blood will go to your brain, simultaneously it'll go to your kidneys, it'll go to your bladder, it'll go to your intestine.